Okay, hello everyone. My name is Paul Gross. I'm a senior fellow at the Menachem Begin Heritage Center in Jerusalem, and I'm speaking to you from there. I welcome you all to this webinar. Some of you, I think, attending this are regular attendees of these events, and others are new. For the newcomers, I'll just let you know that for the past year and a half or so, ever since the Begin Center had to close its doors to public events at the center for the reasons that we're all familiar with. We've been doing a lot of events on Zoom, and every Wednesday I've been doing an event in English in which I've been hosting a guest or guests, and we've been having discussions and lectures on a number of topics around Israeli politics, Israeli history, the Middle East, the Jewish world, and other things that we think are of interest to the people that used to come through our doors and hopefully will again very soon. So today we have two wonderful guests and a really I think fascinating and different topic. We're going to be talking about the National Rescue Unit of the IDF and specifically also its recent deployment in Florida in the United States after the tragic collapse of the Champagne Towers in Surfside, Florida, near Miami. I know that we have a number of people joining us today from Miami, perhaps some people that are connected to that event. So I do want to say that I think as a mark of respect, I think it's appropriate for us to say that we're really holding this event very much in memory of the 98 people who lost their lives in that terrible event in June. Okay, so as I said, we have two wonderful guests. I'm going to introduce both of them, and then we'll go to a presentation from our first speaker. So we're very fortunate to have with us Colonel Golan Vach, the commander of the National Rescue Unit of the IDF, a position that he has held for the past 4 years. It's a reserve position, so he also has a day job. He's the CEO and founder of the Galilee Council in the north of Israel. Colonel Vach has been involved in a number of emergency situations around the world, earthquakes in places like Haiti and Mexico and Albania, a typhoon in the Philippines, a collapsing dam in Brazil. We're going to hear more about these things from him, but just so you know and you're aware that he's really been at the sharp end of of these tragedies and these disasters and the extraordinary efforts that Israel has made to assist in these events. And we're also extremely privileged and honored to have with us Ray Jadallah, who is the assistant chief of the Miami-Dade Fire Department, whose team worked with Colonel Vach's team as part of the local emergency services in Miami for the Surfside tragedy. And we're also going to hear from him his experiences of working with the Israeli team. So first of all, let me pass over to Colonel Vach, and we're going to see a presentation from him. We're then going to hear from Assistant Chief Ray Jadallah. Colonel Vach.
Good evening, everyone. Just in the beginning, I want to say that we had the privilege to work with Ray Jadallah's team, and he didn't work with us. We worked with him. We all worked together, but we came as a guest, and it's an honor for me to share the same screen with you, my friend Ray. So I will share screening my presentation. I'll try to highlight main topics that we've been through together. Do you see the presentation? Okay, so for us, ISR-1, Israel 1, or in the other name, National Rescue Unit, Yachza in Hebrew. This operation 4.5 weeks ago was our more than 25 in the last 40 years. We started in Lebanon. After the terror attack, we established our unit. Since then, we've been in many events. Unfortunately, we visited a lot of places overseas, not in good circumstances. When the building collapsed in Thursday morning, we offered our assistance. We were not sure that it will be accepted because we have much experience in other countries, not in United States. So we have been a little bit surprised that they got our offer. Saturday afternoon, we took the flight. Saturday night, we landed Sunday morning, and we arrived basically after 72 hours. So when I say building collapse, for me, the main picture is that one. When I landed, a journalist stuck a microphone to my mouth and asked, "Do you think that there is a chance to find somebody alive?" And I said, yes. I found a man 100 hours after an earthquake in Haiti. Unfortunately, we are talking on the same Haiti right now. But right now we see me and Jules France. If you can see him inside, in the dark space inside. It was after 100 hours. We found him alive. It took us 8 hours to extract him, but we have succeeded. So when we landed and we approached to the pile, to the site, as we call it, we were hoping to find voids, empty spaces. I called them tunnels that enables people to breathe, to stay alive. And with penetrating the pile, you can find people alive in those voids. Our timeline was like that in June 24th, the building collapsed. 2 days after, we got the flight. After 2 days, we got reinforcement of 5 rescuers from Israel. 5 days later, when all the task forces from all around the United States arrived, we sent back eight members. In the same day, there was an explosion of the remaining structure, and we finished the activity 2 weeks after we started. So how was it? When we arrived at the airport, it was Saturday night. We got a few texts from people in Surfside. I changed the names to keep those people dignity and respect. So I changed the name inside. I am Devorah. It was one of the texts that I received. The mother of Rivki, she was with her brother in apartment 202. I was very forceful to have you come, bring me back my daughter. A lot of Jews knows a lot of Jews, so they got my phone number. And I also got the building programs, blueprints to my cell phone at the airport. So we got the chance, we got the time to learn all of the structures, all the apartment structure on those 12, 13 hours of flight. As you can see, the left is the original building, and in the right, it was the pile, of course, after the collapse. The reason that the building collapsed is not my mandate right now in this presentation, so I will not focus it right now. The main thing that we should understand right now that this structure was consist of 6.5 apartments, and the forest side of the slide was burning, still burning. When we arrived, we saw Task Force 1 and 2, Florida Task Force 1 and 2, Sunday morning. The firefighters were still trying to take over the fire, and we got into this work in Sunday about 10 o'clock. We saw that the technique of the task forces as the same, they use it all over worldwide, based on dogs, canines, that mark the assumptions, location of the missing people. They mark it with paint, and the shift starts working according to these signs, to these paints. They use advanced equipment as cameras, as radars, and we were happy to see the level of the equipment, the level of techniques, but we understood that we could contribute our methodology. In Israel, we developed a unique methodology based on dozens of unfortunate events that we took part in Israel, in warfare, overseas, in delegations, all kinds of operations, which based on several layers. The first layer is to try to understand who are we looking for, who are the missing people, to build a list of the missing people. We call it the anchor list. After we understand who are we looking for and where his whereabouts in the building, we are trying to restore the current situation of the building. It's the engineering layer, engineering effort. And the last one is the search and rescue. All search and rescuers are, according to their finding, it support the plan. So our first mission was to arrive at the family center and try to build the missing people list. You see the handsome man here in the white, my friend Ray. It was one of the briefing. It was not the first one that my second in command, Elad, arrived and asked Ray the permission to have the information from the families. We have the delegation was consist of 10 people. 3 of them were responsible to build the missing people list. So you can see in the left, Elad and Chief Jadallah with the families. In one of the briefing, when Elad tried to explain the purpose, the need to have this list. And he said an important sentence: we need you. It's a basic technique that we use that enables the families to become active. If a man knows that somebody needs him, he starts active. He starts being active instead of passive. And Elad told the families that we need them to get the information of the missing people, of the loved ones, in order to build the list. you see at the right side of the slide, you see Tal. She's an officer in my unit as well. And she is sitting with the families and build with them the missing list people. Why is it so important? You see, you saw the pile, you saw the building after the collapse. There is no logic in the pile. And if we start operating heavy machines, it can hurt and damage the bodies. We can lose the current place that we are working on. And after few hours, maybe few days, we will be lost. So at the beginning, if you know who are you looking for, it's like a fireflies in the dark. You can create some kind of path of route from the place you are standing to the next one, and then to the next one, and then to the other people, apartment by apartment, bedroom after bedroom. Bedroom because the collapse occurred in 1:25 a.m. and most of the people, as they finally found, were in their bedrooms. So this is the main objective of the population effort, as we call it. After 6 hours, the product is in front of you. The anchor list was ready. You can see part of the fields from part of the people. There were in the beginning 159 missing people. Together we found that there are about 93 to 98 people at that time that should be found. When we arrived, 6 were already extracted dead from the pile. So we together had to find another 87 people. At the same time, when Elad, Tal, and Yuval were with Chief Jadallah in the family center, I was with the engineers and with the rescuers on the pile. I had 2 main objectives. The first one is to create a plan. I was waiting for Elad missing list, the anchor list. I was waiting for it. But meanwhile, we started working. My first objective was to build a plan based on the missing people list and the engineering layer. What is the engineering layer? First, we have to restore the building according to the current collapse. You see the slab, most of layers were not lying as they were built originally. They slept in different places. I said in one of my interviews that we are there 10 people, but we behind us the all IDF is working. And it was true. We got all IDF's resources. In this case, the intelligence department. We have architects. We have analysts. We have data researchers. And my architect will start drawing by hand in the beginning the pile. You can see the drone layer that we got from our fellows Americans, which was customized as according to our needs. You can see the numbers of the apartments. In the bottom side, 10, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. all the red squares are the bedroom's location. So Michael Obovikov, my architect, was customizing the pile according to the current position on site. We have a special unit in our intelligence department that created 3D models, which enables us to understand where exactly are we standing according to the last position of the building. After 6 hours, when we got the missing list, the anchor list, we put together all layers, and we can see exactly where are we standing and who are we looking for, and where is he exactly on the pile. You see the names. If I could symbolize it to you, I could point on each one of these yellow triangles, and I would see the file and the picture and all the information and details of the missing one on the right side of the slide. And this is one of the tools that we use. It's a layer that I can see with my camera the current position of the missing people exactly on the pile. I'm walking with my cell phone, and I see in that case Graciela Catarossi, 501, 3.9 meters from me. I can walk, and after 3.9, I would stand on the estimated position of this woman. So this was my first objective. My second one was trying to persuade the local commanders that became our friends after 48 hours to adopt our plan. You can see that we were trying to anchor ourselves all the time. We is us, the Americans and the Israelis, by using paint sprays. You can see the red balcony. This is me. In my left side, you can see a red balcony. The red balcony belonged to the 9th floor. So if you know where you are standing, you're trying to anchor yourself each 2-3 hours. You paint from the beginning because it all smashed and taken by the rescuer that worked very fast. After 12 hours, we could assume where exactly are we standing on. You can see that I wrote, it was Sunday night. Bedroom location, ISR 1 with an arrow. To the one who do not understand the technique, it could be, it seems like an act without any reason. But we assume that we are standing right now on one of the bedrooms. And finally, we painted on the ground. It's like a chess table. All the marking that enables each one of the rescuer understand where exactly is he standing on. How have we found the people? as you have seen, there was a plan. And after 48 hours, I felt pretty comfortable to come to one of my friends. This is Chris, one of the task forces leader, and ask him to give me a team. And he said, what for? And I answered that I need the team to find a man. And he was asking, what is his name? And I said, the name is like this. And he said, okay, I'm basing on my plan. So we started working according to our assumption. And after 3 hours, we found a mattress. And after half an hour, we found a leg and the whole body and the man. We found the man. So we pulled him out. We entered him to the bag, to the body bag. And he asked me, how do you know that this is the man that you're looking for? And I answered, I know his name. I know his location. It's him. And he said, I want to prove. So I entered to this room, to this half void, and I found a paper. The paper was with the man's user, exactly the name and the numbers. And we understood that we are now in 702. And I said, if we are 702, right now in 802, there is another man. He's supposed to be here. He's in handicap. So we started working. He brought another team. And after 2 hours, we found a wheel. The wheel belonged to, it was a part of his chair, handicap chair. And we found the chair after 1 hour, and we found this man after 2 hours. And from this point on, we felt that we have the opportunity to recommend of all the places that we estimated and we assumed that the missing people be. One day, Tal, that you saw before, one of my officers, my intelligence officers, told me that she found from one of the families a unique symbol, unique item. And if we see one of the items, it belongs to one, Gary Cohen. As you can see, it's a unique ring, golden ring, and I remembered it. One night, I was working with the Ohio's Task Force 1 commander, Mike, extraordinary commander, and we were not sure where are we standing right now because there was a place that the apartments 10 and 3 got mixed together, and we found findings from both apartments in the same place. I didn't know for sure where are we standing on. So after a few hours, I found holy books, Sifrei Kodesh, Gemarot, and I find of one of the books the name of Avi. Avi Cohen was the son of Brad Cohen. Brad is the brother of Gary with the ring. And I said, Avi is the son. If we can find Avi and ask him where exactly his father put his books, we can understand where are we standing right now. As I said before, it is very important to understand the accurate location. We found Avi by phone, of course, and he said the books were in the entrance to the apartment. So we understood that few meters from here, we will find the bedroom. After a few meters, I found this plaque which written on from Rabbi A.D. Davis, Children's Town, Jerusalem. I called Israel, my intelligence officer. She have birth in that moment. And I said, leave everything. Just focus in this mission. Find this man. He's from Jerusalem, Rabbi A.D. Davis. I don't know him. Just try to understand if he knows somebody from this building. And she said, it's written in Hebrew. I have to do that I talked to Rabbi Davis' son, and he said that this plaque was given to Brad Cohen, who lives in this building that collapsed. So we understood that we are very close. After a few hours, we found 4 people together. Brad was in one room, Gary, his brother, was in the next room, and we found 4 people together. And we didn't know in that time who is who. Suddenly, Mike saw a ring, a golden ring on one of the man's fingers. And he gave it to me, and I saw that it's the same ring, and I understood that we arrived to Gary. Each evening, the delegation returned to the hotel. I was trying to stay on the pile, to keep all the intelligence very tight, and to trying to not lose any one of the items, to understand exactly where we're standing on. In a Shabbat evening, Erev Shabbat, I went to the hotel and I met Devorah. And Devorah, the mother of Rivki, asked me if we have already found her daughter. And I said, she is in 202. We have a lot of way to go, to arrive. And she said, but you are an Israelis. How come that you haven't found her yet? And I said, we are doing our best, Devorah. Sunday arrived. Monday, we got down from 11 to 10 to 9. When we arrived to 11, I found one of the people that we found was the Ainsworth couple. I knew that they are at 11:04 because their son reminded us. Every time we've met, he said, don't forget, my parents are in 11:04. So one night when we arrived 11:04 and I heard that somebody found something, I ran to that place and I said, I want to be part of the team. And we pulled them out. And it was pretty difficult to get them out. They were inside and they were together on the same mattress. And I've been a lot of operations, but this one was difficult. After 2 days, their kids, their children, wanted to talk to me and invited me to their Shiva, and I arrived, and they wanted me to explain and to tell them exactly how was it like. And I told them that they were together and they were almost intact. And I treated them gently as they were doing themselves. And I was trying to be their shaliach, their messenger. And one of the children asked me, did you extracted them yourself? And I answered yes. it was me. And he said, you know, my mother adored IDF soldiers. And if she had known that when she will die, a soldier will pull them out, will pull her out, she would die long time ago. And they were all laughing. And we were sitting there, and they named their new baby on the name of their grandmother, their mother, Iti, and I was honored to take part in their name. 8th floor, 7th floor, 6th floor, 5th floor, 4th floor, we almost arrived to the 2nd floor. Another Shabbat arrived. We didn't find Rivki yet. But in 3:02, we found 3 people instead of 2. We knew exactly who are the 2, but the third one, we couldn't understand exactly who he was. And we had to go again to the hotel to meet the families. And Dvorah saw me again and asked me if it's true that we are leaving tomorrow night, Saturday night, Motzei Shabbat. And I said, yes, we are leaving. And she said, you found everyone except my Rivki. And I said, we have another 24 hours. We will do our best. We didn't eat much that Friday night. We rushed to the pile and we started working. Saturday morning, Shabbat, 6:30, the sun was already very hot. 7, 8, 9. We were on the 2nd floor with all the great commanders of Task Force 2. David Nunez was working with us. We were working with him, and he gave us an excavator and another team. We cleaned all the apartment. My engineer, Amnon, said maybe we should clean all the boundaries. Maybe she fell out of the window. Maybe she's in the balcony. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. In 5, in the beginning, we decided that in 5 o'clock we finish the mission. But 4 o'clock arrived and we didn't find her. I postponed the summary to 5:30, and I saw the excavator, I saw the sunset, and I said, God, I know that it's going to happen. We will find Rivki right now. By 5:30 arrived, and we didn't find her. And we decided to finish the mission. We had our summary, our briefing, and we arrived to the street. We met all the firefighters that said goodbye, and we started our walk from the pile to the hotel. And in the hotel, in the lobby, I saw Dvorah again. And she said, you are leaving without Rivki. And I said, we've done our best. You can see Amnon's and Moti's faces. They are all burned from the sun. You can see me. We are working for 14 days. But I can assure you that David Nunez is the best commander. He will find her. And she said, I know, you've done your best. Goodbye. And she was tearful. we entered the hotel and we were very, very upset. And suddenly Amnon came in and yelled, "They found Rivki." And I said, "Who? When?" And he said, "Do you remember yesterday? We found 3 people in 302. The third one was probably her." And we felt that that God loves us, because to go back to Israel without Rivki was a sour taste, too much for us. I want to finish. I want to end my presentation and to say that we had the privilege to work with the American teams on US soil. We found brave people, very professional, that worked around the clock before we came and after we came. We're trying to contribute our techniques, our way of works. If we contributed in something, it's in the location of the missing people. We took part of the extrication, physical extrication of these people, but most of the work was done by the teams. And I wanted to express again my appreciation for these teams and for the honor that they gave us to work with them side by side. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Colonel Golan Vach, for that wonderful presentation. We've all, I think, learned a huge amount from that about the amazing, extraordinary work that you and your unit did in Surfside and that you've done in other places. And we'll get to some questions from the audience as well. Before that, I want to turn to Assistant Chief Ray Jadallah. Ray, firstly, thank you so much for joining us from Miami. I wanted to ask you, can you just tell us a little bit about the experience, your experience, and the experience of your team in working with Colonel Vach's team, and also just what was the response, I guess, because I imagine it's not the most normal thing for, especially for the United States. This is the wealthiest country in the world, most advanced country in the world, to have a team from a foreign army, albeit from an ally like Israel, but coming along to help. What was the response from you and your team to the assistance of this group from overseas?
Well, first and foremost, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Colonel, once again. I know we spoke last week, and we still maintain communications even till today. I do speak to Colonel or Elad, as I like to call him, but the good Colonel, as I referred to him, for almost a month. So first and foremost, what I'd like to do is I'll break it down into 2 parts. The actual holy pile, as the Colonel renamed it. Colonel Vach renamed it along with the families, the Holy Pile, and then also discuss, how they were instrumental in the Family Assistance Center, where I was speaking to the families. So in regards to the actual the Holy Pile, so when this incident did happen, it happened, as you know, at the worst time. And not to say that there is a good or bad time, but it happened in the middle of the night, where the actual high rise was occupied to its capacity, coupled without very limited notification for people to evacuate. The building did come down, approximately 2/3 of the building. So in regards to the actual collapse, and when we kind of started encountering what we had, and we had the resources on scene, just to kind of off on a side note in regards to our capabilities. I know that we have a lot of international viewers today. So typically, I know that historically across the world, the fire departments are seen as firefighters who put out fires and maybe help out with some minor stuff. Here in South Florida, especially our agency, Miami-Dade County, we have 2,800 firefighters, but these firefighters are not just firefighters. They're firefighters, paramedics, technical rescue technicians, hazmat. So we're probably one of only few fire departments across the nation that are actually what we call all hazards. Anything that can be handled by a technical team from A to Z, we could handle, with the exception of the law enforcement component. So when this incident did happen, as you know, the colonel had mentioned, we activated our internally our Florida Task Force 1. This coupled with the fire departments across the region, they started assessing. We began our operations. Eventually, we started requesting the additional state assets, which are the additional state teams, USAR teams, and to begin with the operations, including heavy machinery to start lifting the slabs. The one thing that, and I gotta give, the colonel, the IDF, credit is they brought the software, and historically for us, we don't, deal with something of this nature in regards to a collapse that's specifically to one building. When we do deal with something, it's widespread. Like let's say earthquakes, which we've all seen across, our tenure. Hurricane activations where the damage is over, hundreds of square miles, so it's not one specific building. So the last time we've had something like this, or at least in the last 25, 30 years, we could count them in one hand for the state or for our country. Oklahoma City bombing, the World Trade Center collapses, the Pentagon, and now the Surfside collapse. So for us in the last 30 years, for collapses to occur, it's very rare. So when the colonel came with his team, like I said, they came and they brought a program. They brought themselves. They brought a great, probably some of the best individuals the IDF could have had represent themselves, true ambassadors of their country, and they quickly merged with our teams and began working, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So our operations with the search never stopped. And unfortunately, we did have a couple of situations where we had lightning storms where we have to stop. Of course, we did have other variables that did, it was just wrenches that were thrown into this operation. But they worked side by side, hand by hand, foot by foot, with all the teams. It didn't matter the individuals, because at the end of the day, all we saw was personnel on top of the pile. In regards to just the sheer calmness, and this is in regards to the Family Assistance Center. So to give you kind of the history, the Family Assistance Center is where the families and friends would show up to kind of get some information as to their loved ones. Typically, it's not my assignment, but I took the assignment on knowing that there's the information that the families needed was going to need to come from higher up, meaning an individual that needed to, provide correct information and credible information and not give them, false information. So I took this role on myself. I didn't defer to anybody. I showed up twice a day, and for some days it would be several hours each session. And one of the things for me in regards to the uphill battle that we had to deal with was the misinformation that was being spent on the internet. Unfortunately, you have internet trolls that love to cause chaos, and we just had to deal with it. And when the IDF showed up, and this is where I worked hand in hand with Elad, it reinforced numerous things. One, everything and anything that's possible that could be done is being done. In addition to that, I know that there was, as we've come to find over the course of time, approximately 80% of that building was probably occupied by some Jewish faith, background. So a lot of people typically were asking, why did this building initially fall? And we didn't have a specific reason. So when you don't have a specific reason, then there becomes doubt. And there was also some concerns in regards to well, if they're not telling us why the building fell down, do we need to bring somebody from the outside? And this is where that, discussion came up. But I got to give a lot of credit. He helped out in regards to, bringing calm, bringing the information, reinforcing the information that was being shared. So there was never an issue of, we're saying one thing, but then, somebody else is saying another. So the information was always, constant. To the point where, of course, I had a very close relationship, like I said, with Elad, to the point that we continue to talk even till today. The continuous work of all the team members. And one of the things that they did bring that I don't think many of us would have been able to achieve at the level that the IDF brought was they were in regards to the program. So I know that the good colonel would refer to it as the golden evidence. We would have needed to get not only the trust of all the families there, but we would have also needed to get the information that the IDF got. This is where the various soldiers were able to get the names of, which we knew the names of every person in the apartment, but not necessarily everything that they had that really stood out. So for instance, Colonel Vach was showing you the watch, the gold watch. That's, basically an evidence marker that we knew that a specific person had. And as a result of that, even though we had to use DNA to identify these individuals, we knew with about 99.9% certainty who that individual was. And I would say that at least 8 out of 10 individuals that were found, many of them, we kind of knew who they were based on the information that the families gave the IDF as a result of this program. And we were pretty much on point. And again, that's a remarkable feat. I don't think that many of us would have been able to achieve that in such a short period of time. But the good, I got to say, Colonel Vach and his team, were able to help and probably expedited some form of closure to numerous family members. So again, they know how I feel about them. They know how I feel about the program. They know how I feel about the work ethic. And I've been nothing but very receptive and grateful for what they've done. So thank you again, Colonel.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you very much, Chief Jadallah. That's also a great great contribution to this event and this and for this audience. I think to hear from a different perspective and a perspective of the local emergency services who are working alongside and were assisted by the IDF. There's a lot of questions. We don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to put a few of them to you, Colonel Vach, and also I'd be happy if Chief Jadallah would also has something to add. Colonel Vach, there were questions about the how it works in terms of how it works practically. How does the IDF decide which countries or disasters to assist with? Do they wait to be asked? Do they offer? What happens if you go to a country where where a non-English speaking country, it's more complicated? Can you speak a little about those specifics?
Yeah. So each disaster that occurs, we offer help. I can say that we are offering assistance even to not countries that we can count them among our allies. I would not mention all the countries, but we offer worldwide. Each country that got affected, we offered Haiti a few days ago, and we arrive only when we are welcomed. Okay, so this is it. When we arrive to a country with no English speakers, we bring with us those language speakers, or we use translators on ground. We always arrive after we understand who will translate and be the POC for us. Okay, thank you. Maybe Chief Jadallah, as maybe I could ask you,
when the IDF arrived, do you think that the people in your fire department and other rescue services what was their reaction? Were they surprised? Were they sort of happy that there was help from overseas? Was it sort of something a bit strange for them, maybe, that there was this foreign service sort of helping out?
No, and remember that typically when the urban search and rescue teams are activated, it doesn't matter if it's local or national, that they run into teams from all over the world. So I'll use the Haiti as a perfect example, as maybe not necessarily the one that just occurred, but the one in 2010. There must have been probably 30 countries represented, 25 countries. So we're normal. This is normal for us. But specifically to this event, yes, it's rare that we see an outside country that comes in to assist. It doesn't matter where it is. So it could be, as a result of the World Trade Center collapse. But I think because we have all the national teams, it wasn't necessarily an issue. I think just typically as a result of, the IDF coming in, initially there was, a question was, okay, so we have the IDF here. Are we attaching them to the AM, meaning the morning crew, or the afternoon crew? And I believe Colonel Vach's team ended up being split into both. Is that correct, or was it just assigned to the one crew? Okay, so we ended up just splitting his team and attaching him to both the first group and the second group, because remember, we were working 24 hours a day. We never stopped. But again, at least in South Florida, I got to say that we are a melting pot. So there wasn't an issue of, again, different uniforms or different people, or are we receptive or not? We're always receptive, and it was no different. And again, I said it during the Family Assistance Center. The success in regards to what we were able to achieve and with the families, whereas a big part of it Elad played a big part of it himself. So again, it was a team concept, team effort, and it was very, very, considering the circumstances that happened, it ran extremely well, very, proficient.
Okay, thank you. Colonel Vach, there's a question here from Shmuel Yerushalmi, who's a regular Israeli-based attendee of my webinars. Shmuel wants to know, according to your impression, what is the level of readiness of the IDF to rescue operations and emergency situations inside Israel?
The level of readiness is very high. We are not the only unit, as known. There are dozens of reserve units beside the regular active units, search and rescue. I think that Israel is not a big country. And in this tiny place, to have about 50 brigades, search and rescue brigades, it's a high level of readiness.
Thank you. Chief Jadallah, there's a question here from Wendy who asks, did you or others in the team, did you have any solid reason to believe that anyone survived the initial collapse? And if so, what evidence?
So as the Colonel had mentioned, we utilize different types of technology and, animals. So in this case, the canine dogs alerted early into the incident, especially, the initial collapse that we had a victim. So this is part of the reason why we were working underneath the building for well over a day, tunneling to get to what we heard, the faint voice in and out for a few hours, but that only lasted for the first few hours. However, we continued with the operations coupled with the machinery, etc. Unfortunately, just like I said, we were dealt many variables, many blows, including the fire, the tropical storm. Well, initially it was a hurricane, but then a tropical storm. Then the actual debris that we were trying to dig through, we find out that it was holding up the building, and the building shifted on us. So there was just so many variables. Early in the incident, we did have, the voice. We did have an alert by the canine, and as such, we continued to tunnel our way down there. And Unfortunately, we never got to that person, and we never heard another voice after, I believe it was 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. the day of the incident.
Well, okay, thank you. Colonel Vach, this is a question. I don't know if you can answer this, but I'm gonna put it to you anyway, and you can decide. There's a question here whether the technology that you discussed in your presentation, is it the same technology that's used to, she's written to identify the victims of Nazi mass shootings from decades ago. And I think she's talking about that if people go to the sites of atrocities in the Holocaust in Eastern Europe and other places, grave sites, and if there's technology there similar to what you talked about, which can identify victims and give some sort of closure to the families of those victims. Do you know if that's the case?
No, unfortunately, I'm not familiar of this question, of this information that I've been asking on, but I can say that in any national mission that IDF is involved, we use all resources. Okay, these resources was specially adapted to search and rescue mission. And I can say that with the same branches that used to simulate the structure of building in anti-terror incidents to anti-terror units to take over this building was used to restore Surfside collapse. So we use all resources in all national operations.
Okay, so I think we've been going for an hour, and I think I've asked pretty much all the questions I've been asked, and I want to give people the rest of their evening here in Israel, and Ray Jadallah the rest of his if he gets a lunchtime, I don't know, in Miami. I want to thank Colonel Golan Vach very much for joining us and really for giving those of us Israelis and I think Jews around the world a lot of reason to be very, very proud of Israel and the people in the National Rescue Unit. And it's a real expression of Or L'Goyim, of Israel being a light unto the nations, and we very much appreciate and respect it. Thank you so much for joining us and for all the work that you do and have done, and please pass that on to the rest of your unit and the people you work with. Ray Jadallah, thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving up part of your day to join us. And I think the good people of Miami-Dade are fortunate to have you as part of their emergency services, and your very dedicated team. Thank you all for joining. I hope to see you again. Those of you who are not on my mailing list, you can email me, paulg@begincenter.org.il, to get on the mailing list and get information about the other events that we have here in English. Thank you all very much. Good evening to those of you in Israel. Good day to those of you in the United States and elsewhere.
Take care. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Take care.